All right, let's talk about Zscaler. They just hit a massive milestone, joining a super exclusive club in the SaaS security world by crossing the $3 billion mark in annual recurring revenue. So how'd they do it? And more importantly, what does this tell us about the huge shift happening in cybersecurity right now? We're going to break it all down, including where their CEO sees things heading. Let's dive in. So here's our game plan. We're going to start broad, looking at the big, fundamental problems Zscaler is solving. Then we'll zoom in on their amazing quarterly results. And finally, we'll pull back out to look at their vision for the future. Think of it like an hourglass. It's the best way to get the full picture. You know, to really get why Zscaler is so successful, you first have to understand the problem they're solving. For decades, company security was basically built like a fortress. You know, the whole castle and moat idea. But honestly, in a world full of cloud apps and people working from anywhere, that model just doesn't work anymore. It's fundamentally broken. And you can see the difference right here. The old way on the left just assumes that if you're inside the network, you're trusted. The problem? As soon as one bad actor gets in, they have the keys to the kingdom. They can move around and find all the valuable stuff. The zero trust model just throws that whole idea out the window. It assumes nobody is trusted by default. It connects you directly to the app you need and never to the network itself. Okay, here's a really simple way to picture this. Think of a firewall like a drawbridge. Once it's down, you're inside the castle walls and you can pretty much wander anywhere. That's a huge risk. But Zscaler? It's more like an old-school telephone switchboard operator. It doesn't let you onto the network at all. Instead, it plugs you directly into the one specific application you need and nothing else. That one-to-one connection, that's the game changer. It shrinks the attack surface down to almost nothing. So now that we've established the problem, let's look at Zscaler's solution. And they didn't just, build a better firewall. They built a totally new architecture, all delivered from the cloud. And the scale of it is just, well, it's immense. The heart of this whole thing is called the Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange. Just think of it as this giant global security checkpoint that lives in the cloud. And get this. It processes over 500 billion transactions a day. That is more than 20 times the number of daily Google searches. And while it's doing that, it's inspecting everything and stopping over 9 billion potential threats every single day. Which brings us right to their latest earnings report. See, the success of this zero trust idea isn't just a theory. It's translating into some absolutely massive financial results. It's proof that the market is really, truly embracing this new way of thinking. The company's chairman and CEO, Jay Chaudhry, said it perfectly in the announcement. He pointed out not just that incredible revenue milestone, but also that they hit record profitability. That's a powerful combination. It signals huge demand and really smart, efficient operations. And there it is, the big number, over $3 billion in annual recurring revenue. Now, to put that into perspective for you, this makes Zscaler one of only 2 pure SaaS security companies to ever hit that kind of scale. It's a very, very exclusive club. Okay, so let's dig into that success a little bit more. That headline ARR number is obviously impressive, but the numbers underneath it tell an even more powerful story. A story about real momentum and how deeply they're getting into the world's biggest companies. First, let's talk about the growth engine. Even at a multi-billion-dollar scale, Zscaler's revenue still shot up 21% year over year. That's not just growth, that's acceleration. It proves the demand for what they're building is stronger than it's ever been. And a huge piece of that growth is coming from landing the big fish. Zscaler now has 664 customers who spend over $1 million with them every year. We're not just talking about software licenses here. We're talking about huge companies betting their entire security strategy on this platform. And speaking of huge companies, check out this trust signal. Nearly half of the Fortune 500 now depend on Zscaler. I mean, when the biggest, most attacked companies in the world are all adopting your platform, that sends a pretty undeniable message to everyone else. And if you zoom out a bit, the multi-year story is just as impressive. This chart shows a really strong, consistent climb. You're looking at revenue going from about $1.6 billion in fiscal 23 to almost $2.7 billion in 25. That trend line is just unmistakable. Okay, so performance has been amazing, no question. But where does the growth go from here, right? Well, on the earnings call, CEO Jay Chaudhry laid out a super clear vision. It's all centered on 3 big strategic pillars that are already getting some serious traction. So what are these big bets? Well, there are 3 of them. AI security, something they call zero trust everywhere, and data security everywhere. And here's the crazy part. These aren't some far-off future ideas. These so-called emerging pillars already make up over $1 billion in recurring revenue. That's incredible. So let's take a look at each one. First up, AI security. Chaudhary mentioned that AI-related traffic on their cloud just exploded by 3,500% in the last year alone. To get ahead of this, they're building tools like AI Guard, which is designed not just for us humans using AI, but for the next wave, when AI agents need to talk securely to each other.
The second pillar is all about taking this zero trust concept and putting it everywhere. So it's not just for remote users anymore. It's about securing entire branch offices, cloud workloads, everything. And they're moving fast on this. They're already close to their 2026 goal, with over 350 companies sign on to ditch their old firewalls and networking stuff.
And that third pillar, it's a huge consolidation play. The idea is, instead of buying 10 or 12 different tools to protect your data, you can just use Zscaler's one unified platform. This part of the business has grown like crazy and now accounts for about $425 million in annual recurring revenue all by itself. So, with all that said, what does it mean for the year ahead? Well, management gave a really strong outlook for fiscal 2026. It gives us a very clear picture of what they expect in terms of continued growth and profitability. And here's the guidance. For fiscal 2026, they're projecting ARR to get close to $3.7 billion, with revenue over $3.2 billion. This isn't just a forecast, This is a really clear signal of how confident they are that they can execute on those three big growth pillars we just talked about. And that really brings us to the final thought here. When you see a foundational technology like AI grow 3,500% in just 1 year, it forces you to completely rethink security. It really makes you wonder if that old castle and moat approach isn't just outdated anymore. Maybe it's completely impossible. And maybe a zero trust architecture is no longer an option, but just the price of admission for the AI era.